Alright, so I figured I'd make me like a little live stream video talking about my issues with AMD with critical error 41 and WHEA Logger Event ID 18 or 19. So, over the last few days, so over the last few days, I have been upgrading my PC. No, I'm just kidding. I have been replacing parts of my PC that I built back on September 19th, 2021. The reason being, I kept getting experiencing weird crashes, and I am talking like no blue screen of death or B-sides, zero warnings, just an instant boom crash, screens go black, PC fans ramp up, sounds like they're going to overdrive, and then restart. Like nothing ever happened. And sometimes it could happen once a month, sometimes it could happen once a week, sometimes it could just be random. You could be playing a game, it'd be fine. Alt tab out of the screen, boom, crash. No warning, no nothing, just whoosh, full power, restart, man. And it gets kind of annoying. And it's it's a weird issue. So over the last few days, I was checking through like AMD forums, using my Google Foo to try and figure out what was going on. Why was my computer just crashing? Well, apparently you have so once these crashes happen, you need to pull up what's called an event viewer on Windows. Once you do that, oh, I'm being disturbed real quick. So once you do that, that's where you find out exactly what's going on. So on Windows 10, if you go down to the bottom left and where it says type here to search, you can just type in the event viewer and then pull it up. And here's what this looks like. Let me switch over to my other screen. Alright, I'm going to make this a little bigger. Pull this down. So obviously there's a bunch of warnings. These ones are all they're called decoms. I guess it's normal, natural. It's just a computer doing a bunch of random stuff just to make sure things are working, etc., etc. Now, if I go back a couple days, here's where the error looks like. I'm actually going to click on this one so we can read this line down here. But you'll look for the circle with the X, critical, and then I'm going to click on it now so we can go over here. We'll see the date, time that it happened. And then the source, it's called kernel power, event ID 41. And as we can see, it says the system has rebooted without clearly shutting down first. The error could be caused if the system stopped responding, crashed, or lost power unexpectedly. Like this was mind-boggling. Like, because it just keeps crashing. And then when you like Google for this stuff and do some research, it usually points to power supply failure or not enough power. Like the power supply could be too weak, and if it's too weak, then the system, it just shuts down. So usually when you're doing nothing, you got no B-sides, no warnings, no nothing, and it just restarts. Apparently it's just a power supply issue, usually due to not enough power getting to the motherboard or any other your hardware. And that could be from a lot of things. Like you could have, like you think you might have a big enough power supply, and let's say for example, you go out, you buy like a 3090 or a 6900 XT, but you only have like a 500 power supply, you're not thinking about it. Well, I mean, you're not probably going to be able to hook up that uh, card to your power supply anyways. But say if you're able to, and it keeps restarting, then it's most likely because it's not getting enough power. That might be a bad example. I'm not too familiar with this topic. I'm just primarily going over what I've been experiencing. So back to this critical error. So during these restarts, we get this critical error 41. Then there's also these warnings down here. And it's warning timestamp WHEA Logger. Mine says over here event 19, but down here it says processor APIC ID 18. And I think I may have gotten it once or twice when I was doing all this stuff that it said 18 over on this side, but it's been primarily 19 right here, 18 right here, and showing 19 down here. So when I look up WHEA Logger Event ID 18, I find all the issues that I'm experiencing. And when someone like questioned on these, well, what about 19? They'll be telling them, well, that's a completely different issue. But mine says Event 19 for WHEA Logger Event ID 19, but it says Process APIC ID 18 down here for me. So maybe they're referencing this 18, or maybe there's supposed to be an 18 over here. I'm not 100% sure, but that's why I'm, going with WHEA Logger Event ID 18/19. So anyways, let me get my notes pulled back up here. Now, from what I've read, and it seems that there hasn't been an unfortunate run-in with AMD CPUs paired with either AMD Radeons or NVIDIA's. It seems that when an AMD processor is paired with one of those two cards, these errors can come about. Now, it seems that they happen less so on NVIDIA, so when these errors happen, people replace their Radeons, they go with NVIDIA, and they don't seem to happen anymore. But there's some where they replace them with NVIDIA and the errors still occur. But it's not that big with NVIDIA. It's just weird that it happens with AMD processor and AMD Radeon graphics. And to be more specific, I'm talking about the Zen Plus, the Gen 2 or the Zen 2 Gen 3 Ryzen processors from AMD. Now, why does this happen? I don't know. During all my Google full, I was not able to discover the answer on why this actually happens. So if somebody else knows, I'm going to be posting this on YouTube as well. So once this live stream is finished, so yeah, there's going to be no editing, no cuts or anything, just straight live and then uploaded to YouTube. So if anybody on YouTube, whoever sees this, knows the answer to that, feel free to comment down below, or if they suspect they know why. It'd be interesting to know what people think. Besides the usual AMD or NVIDIA, besides the usual AMD, NVIDIA or Intel sucks, better than this, yada yada. Don't care about none of that. Just why you might think this happens with AMDs. I haven't heard or seen anything with the Intel. I've never heard of it, but I have not also looked either. Now to continue on, I would like to go over my actual rig. My rig that I use for gaming, coding, streaming, just my daily everyday life that I use for this computer. So I'll actually bring my notes over here. So first off, my processor, and I will go ahead and pull this up too. So my processor is AMD's Ryzen 9 5950X Vermeer 3.4 gigahertz 16 core processor. This beast is so awesome. I extremely love it for everything it is that I do. I still don't think I've done anything to push it to like 100% capacity limits. I haven't ran for those types of tests or anything, but like even on my Twitch Studio, where I can see my CPU usage, it only shows like it's only using like 2.6. Well, it's bouncing between like low 2s to low 3% for CPU usage. So I mean, that's even when I'm gaming too. I mean, this CPU is lovely. Now the thermal paste I was using at the time was Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut Thermal Paste, and that was this bad boy right here. Now, how good is it? I don't know. From my experience, for those like 4 months that I was using it, it seems like it was doing okay. Doesn't seem like anything doesn't seem like my processor got overheated or anything, so it might be okay. But the next time around, I did go with something different. What it was exactly, I don't know. I forgot to write that down. Whoops. I'll put it in the description below with the link on what I actually switched to. I can't think of the name of it at the moment. You know what? Let me go ahead and pull up Micro Center real quick, because I went through Micro Center since I have a nearby Micro Center for all my computer hardware needs. I actually like to refer to Micro Center as the Holy Land. Let's see. Go to my account. What did I use? Huh, sure is taking an awfully long time to load. I've noticed that Micro Center's website today has been slow today. Maybe there's high traffic or something. Let's see. Why is it wanting me to sign in again? So while it was loading, it kicked me out, and then pretty much forced me to sign back in again. Let's see here. I'll just find it later. You know what? Actually, better yet, I can just grab it because I have it over here. Let's see. Where is it at? So the thermal paste I switched over to this time around, after I ended up eventually replacing my processor, is this MX4. Yeah, MX4 thermal compound. I'm not sure who it's actually by though, but this is who I ended up switching over to. I'm not sure if that'll pop up that well or not, but that's eventually who I ended up switching over to for my thermal paste. So we'll give this bad boy a shot. And see if this ends up turning out to be better or something. So I'll end up putting that down in the description below too. So for my Rig's CPU cooler, I'm using the Leon Lee think that's pronounced Galahad 240 mic AIO, which is this bad boy right here. I have it on the front of my case, and it seems to do a pretty damn good job at keeping the 5950X pretty cool. For my graphics card, so originally I had this 6900 XT Red Devil Ultimate by Power Color, just because honestly I was just gonna get the non-ultimate edition at first because I figured it'd be cheaper. But when I first got this bad boy, it was actually $100 less than the non-ultimate for some reason, so I ended up getting the ultimate version. But since this damn thing is so expensive, I know when I first got it, I think I ended up paying like $2,000 about 4 months ago, with Micro Center's warranty, and it was just this card is a beast. But yeah, I ended up eventually switching over to the non-ultimate edition. Now my current RAM, it's by G-Skill. It's their Trident Z RGB 64 gigs, two 34 gig sticks, DDR4 3600, PC4-28800, Charlie Lima 18. Yeah, I know there's a bit of a thing right here going towards RGB. I'm actually not a big RGB fan. It's just what I got at the time. Now, my storage device, it is a Samsung 980 Pro SSD 2TB M.2 drive. It was replaced with Western Digital's Black 2TB. Obviously, I forgot to mention in my notes again when I end this live stream and I go to fill out the descriptions and everything, even for YouTube, I will put the names and the links in the description down below. So I will be updating this list again too, so that way it's more accurate. My current motherboard is an AMD X570 ASRock Taichi. To me, this board had everything that I wanted to do with it, and it seems to be doing a really good job at handling itself as well. I think it's a pretty amazing board, even for for when however long it first came back. I'm not exactly sure what year it came out, but yeah, I actually like this board. Now, here's an interesting thing. My power supply, which is currently sitting over here on the floor behind me, was from Corsair. It was Corsair's RM1000X 1000 watt power supply. That used to be in my case. I replaced it with Corsair's HX1000. And interesting thing is, both of these have been purchased through Micro Center, but it doesn't seem that they're linking the RM1000X power supplies no more at Micro Center. When I was physically there at the store, it looked like they had a small shelf of them, and then they had more HX1000s. So the RM1000 the RM1000X, I believe, was their gold standard, and the HX1000 is the platinum standard. And it was like $60, $80 difference at the time. So I just went ahead and, instead of getting another RM1000, I just got the HX1000 since it was a platinum one, and it apparently can handle, higher loads a lot more efficiently. So I don't have a link for the RM1000X from Micro Center, but this is the one I replaced it with, and it's the HX1000. So far it's doing a good job. I like it. For like the last 3-4 days that I replaced it, it's been doing okay. See, my case is the Leon Lee Landcool 2 Mesh RGB Tempered Glass E ATX Full Tower. And you know what? I didn't know if I was actually gonna like this case at first. I actually like contemplated on returning it, but especially again for the RGB, I don't really care for the RGB. It's just there. But this case is actually really nice. So using this picture right here as an example, this fan and this fan is where my AIO is currently sitting. So it's sitting up here on the front with the tubes down, going up over my card and connected to my CPU. And just, it's this case for what like, oh my god, I'm getting tongue tied. This case was like designed for that AIO. Now I probably could have gotten the bigger one, like the bigger AIO for that Galahad or whatever it was called from Leon Lee. But I didn't know if the tube would be long enough to go to the bottom to go around everything to the CPU. So I only got the two, well, the one with the two, so the smaller one. But even this the one with the two fans for the radiator size, I mean that would have been like a nice to have that much more. But it's doing an awesome job at cooling my processor. I have no quarrel with it. So this is the case that I'm using. Now, I did put more fans. I have all kinds of fans. I have 8 total fans, I think. See, 3 on the front, 2 bottom, 2 top, 1 in the rear. Yeah, this case has lots of fans in it. So I bought this pack of 3. I only was able to use 2 of them, and I couldn't fit the last one up top because in this case, the only thing if I was wanting to really knock on this case about is that the control panel for the top of the case kind of like drops down a little bit. So where there should be a fan that could fit, there's actually no space for the fan. So I think they could have actually done a little better design on that. And that's basically my rig. So to continue forward with the Kernel 41 and the WHEA Logger errors that I was getting, here's how to find them. Well, I guess I kind of went over that earlier. So how to find these errors, you pull up your event logger, you look for this critical kernel power. Let me pull this, maximize it again. You look for this critical kernel power 41. And that's how you know your machine's suffering from it, as well as these warnings over here. You can kind of tell what they are because they all pretty much state WHEA logger. Over here it says 19. Down here it says 18 for the processor APIC ID 18. And I feel like a broken record repeating all this now. However, again, I'm just going over it. Now, if you have these, then most likely a huge issue, but since I have went through this already and read a ton of articles and forums, here is everything I did to get around this. And it wasn't pretty, at least not for me. By the way, I would also like to make a throw out a tip. Warranty all your hardware. I ended up building this computer like because I had made some Dogecoin money, but I was not expecting none of these parts to start failing 4 months after getting them and building this rig. Literally 4 months, and I had to literally rebuild this entire PC. I'll explain everything as I go. So, if you have these, here's all the steps I took to diagnosing and figuring out the errors, the warnings, and how I solved it. While the system is completely unplugged and powered off, I'm talking about unhooking all USBs, unplugging the power cable. If your power supply has that switch for on and off on the power supply, turn it off and unplug the monitors, everything. Pull out your Ethernet cable, and just if it has RGB, wait for all the lights to completely disappear, so that way all the capacitors on any of the hardware have time to dissipate all that electrical energy, so you don't cause any types of electrical shocks or anything. Because yes, that can happen too, and that's how other shit gets fried. So what I did first was I visually checked over all the hardware the best I could while it was all still hooked up. I looked for any type of burnt marks. I looked for any of the capacitors that could be swollen. Like for example, on the motherboard, there's capacitors everywhere, littered with capacitors. And if any of them, if at least one, did not look like all the others, I would have replaced my motherboard right then and there, because if that capacitor somehow had a dent, if it was swollen or anything, had it was this little discolored, bad motherboard, replace that son of a gun. Smell. We all kind of know what electrical, like burnt electrical smell is. Like when it burns out, you're like, huh, something smells burnt, and it smells electrical, if that makes sense. But yeah, like look over the power supply. Like I unhooked my power supply. I gave it a look over. I kind of smelled it. Um, I looked over all my other stuff, and just in case, since everything on Google was pointed to this power supply, that's when I went out and I replaced the RM1000X with the HX1000. After that, I did memory checks. So I'm going to minimize this screen. I checked my memory just in case there was any memory failure. Because any memory failure seems like it could have caused this as well, possibly. Then again, any type of weird memory failure is just weird anyways. Anything could happen if memory fails. So first, what you could do is go to the same place where you typed in the event viewers. Type in Windows, Memory Diagnostic, and this little box will pop up right here. It'll say check your computer for memory problems. You got two options: restart now and check for problems, recommended, or check for problems the next time I start my computer. Some people do this as well, especially if the crashes aren't constant and they're wanting to check other things at the same time. They'll check this so when the computer goes to restart and goes to boot up, it'll run that check first. So I ran this. My RAM passed those checks. Then there's another standard called the MemTest 86. You Google full that sucker, you download it, you install it, well, you copy it or whatever. You basically take a thumb drive and let's say, like, I would take this thumb drive, hook it into my tower, wipe the thumb drive, make sure there's nothing important on it that you need first. Reformat it, install the MemTest 86 on here, and then boot from this drive, and it'll run a very, very thorough diagnostics. For example, I also took some detailed notes over on my Discord. I have a Discord for my Twitch. So if anybody's interested in coming over there and hanging out and talking, bullshitting, whatever, feel free to come over there and join us. It's just small right now, just a handful of people. But more are welcome. Let's see. Let me find it. Okay. So here, okay. This was the Memtest 86. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, there we go. So this was the results. The MTest 86 version 9.3 free build 1000 results summary. It ran for no shit 7 hours 14 minutes and 55 seconds. That's nuts. Yeah, I did this while when I went to sleep. I stayed up for like the first 2 hours just in case it was going to take only about 2 hours to run. But I kind of forgot too, I have 64 gigabytes of RAM. So it took 7 hours, 14 minutes, 55 seconds to run. And as you can see, no errors, none, zilch, nothing. If if Memtest can't find any, if Memtest 86 cannot find any memory errors, it's not your memory. So no need to replace it. And then after that, I decided to check my storage. So for storage, I ran something in the command line. So you can go to the same place for the event view logger as well as the memory diagnostics. Type in CMD and you'll get this right here. And I typed in check disk, C drive. Whoops. I forgot to hold down my shift key twice there. And then I did /F/R/X and I hit enter. There's a chance it may say it can't run right now. It'll run during the next boot up. That's completely fine. That's what I did. And I think mine took about 30 minutes to an hour to run it. And the result of that was kind of surprising. So after it ran the check, it seems everything was good until right here, stage 4. Looking for bad clusters and user file data, and it found a read failure with status at offset 4 bytes, and then 838,640 files processed. Then it states, Windows has scanned the file system and found no problems. No further action is required. However, there's a read failure. I Googled that, and I've seen people say if you have at least one read failure, your drive is leading more towards failure and will probably fail soon. So if you have a read failure, just go ahead and replace your drive. So this was the second piece of hardware I replaced. So the first one was my power supply. I just replaced it out of good faith just in case. My second one, my storage device. It has a read failure, no questions asked. Getting replaced. So after that, oh, and I will note too that before I replaced my power supply, it was constantly restarting. And I mean constantly restarting. And after I replaced it, it was able to start booting up and I was able to start running tests. But here's the interesting thing though. Even though it was still restarting, even when I was trying to run tests, eventually one thing that did, like after I ran my memory tests, check this out. No boot device detected. This was right before I went to go scan my storage device. Like during the retext, it started coming up with this. No boot device detected. So I'd go straight to my BIOS and my hard drive was gone. Completely missing. No matter what I did, I mean, it's an M.2 drive, so it's directly connected to the motherboard. and it just completely disappeared. So I left my computer off overnight because, I mean, hey, let's face it, computers are weird like that. If you have any types of problem, shut your computer down, leave it off overnight, see what happens. Boom, everything pops back up. I was able to run the storage check, and it failed. It restarted during like the first two storage check disk checks. Eventually, it did actually complete that check disk, and that's how we got that red error, red failure, read failure error. So to me, that was like no boot device found, restarted, crashing during storage. So yeah, that was an automatic like red flag for me. So that was like 2 red flags for my storage. So I knew I was gonna probably have to replace that, which I did. And then after that, I was able to stay up a little bit longer. So after those, after looking up everything that correlates to these errors, you also want to make sure that your BIOS is completely up to date. My BIOS, I always check it. I check about once a month for my BIOS. Sometimes maybe once every 3 months, just in case it's like a quarterly release, and then I update my BIOS. Some people would like to argue if it's not broken, don't fix it. I just like to keep everything updated, and then when things break, I will revert back to the previous one because, hey, if it starts breaking after I updated it, then yeah, obviously, no kidding, right? All right, so it kept going, and I tried to play games. Since my PC kept experiencing issues but was able to stay up longer after replacing my storage, I decided to replace my graphics card out of good faith, primarily because that was the only piece of hardware at the time that had warranty through Micro Center. And a lot of people may not like to buy the store warranty from Micro Center, but hey, here's how this played out. I took out my graphics card, drove straight to Micro Center, returned it. I explained to them what was going on and that I've already been in the store like 2 times, which they know because I went in one time to buy a power supply, went in another time to buy storage device, and I was there to replace the graphics card because it seems like I was having multiple hardware failures. So out of good faith, I replaced my graphics card. Funny thing, my graphics card, I think, stayed up. I mean, not my graphics card, but my computer was able to stay up for at least, I think, 6 hours before it crashed again. I was able to get on Halo Infinite. I played at least one round of a multiplayer match. It was a big team battle, I believe it was. And then, I don't know why I'm yawning. And then I decided to go ahead and Oh man, I do this all the time, like brain farts, forget stuff. Oh yeah, after I played the game, I decided to try and stream. I loaded up Twitch Studio, went to go stream. Crash. So, I did some more research, talked to a couple people. One of them showed me some software that I could use. I forget what it's called. I've already deleted it. I probably should have deleted it just in case anything happens again. But it was software that checked for processor failure. It scanned, well, if it did it in 6-minute increments. The first 6 minutes on one core, passed. Good to go. Second core, well, I think it starts with like core 0 and then core 16. And then I think went to core 4. So if the third core that it was scanning for those 6 minutes, something errored out and it failed. So I took that as a red flag, stopped the scanning process because it went on to the next core. One core fails, whatever, I don't care if it was software glitch or not, replace that sucker. So I drove all the way back to Micro Center and bought me. Notice I'm saying bought because that also did not have a warranty because I was not expecting it to fail within 4 months. And I didn't want to take any chances, although I probably should have. I don't know why I didn't get a warranty because that was the second most expensive daggone part I had. I don't. It's not like I got money to just replace it. So that was stupid on my fault for not getting that warranted the first time. And I replaced it with another AMD Ryzen 9 5950X. And now, knock on wood, nothing. Everything's fixed, it seems. Some keynotes I forgot. After I did the memory checks, even though they passed, I went ahead and reseated my memory. I forgot to mention that. And then I also want to note too that when I installed the graphics card replacement, I went to AMD's website, download their AMD Cleaner or whatever it's called, and it basically will clean all the graphics card stuff, like any drivers, anything associated with the graphics card. So you could do a fresh um, AMD Radeon install, and that's what I did too. And so far, everything's been going like it's brand new. Damn straight, it better be, because the only two pieces of hardware I have left is the motherboard and the RAM, and I already know the RAM is good. Now, during my search, there were other optional solutions that helped, but it was only temporary. Some people would go into the BIOS, and there would be something for the power supply, to where you could change. I believe it was from like an auto current to a typical current, and when people switched over to that typical, and this I guess especially worked for older power supplies, um, it helped a lot. Apparently, there's also some RAM issues to where people like with me, like my RAM's 3600. If they bought any RAM that was over 3200, they would manually um, drop the overclock from 36 or whatever it is all the way down to 32. And at 32, they could run and they would probably go at least like once a week with the restarts and these errors. It wasn't a complete fix, but it helped. Then there was some people that went into the BIOS and there was two, I believe, processor settings. I think one disabled like the auto overclock feature, and I think that helped. And then there was another one. There was another setting. I couldn't find the article that talked about it. No, let me see if I can find it again real quick. And if I can't find it when I'm done with this live stream, I'll spend some time looking for it, and I'll have all that. I'll have all these optionals listed in the description below. So that way, if people want to try to not replace hardware and try and do other things first to see if it helps, that's good to go too. Now, doesn't seem. I thought I bookmarked it. I guess I didn't. Let me check something else real quick. Mm, mm, yeah, I guess I didn't. Geez, that would have been nice to save. Let's see. Let me check my notes under my Discord. Maybe I stuck anything there. Okay. So, I'm trying to look this over real quick. No, I didn't make notes of it. However, someone did contact AMD about it. And this is from the forums I was in. And I guess here's what this person had to say. After contacting AMD tech support, below is the full list of troubleshooting they advised this person. It was supply idle current control. Maybe one of the troubleshooting steps will work for others. I'm not trying to repeat it word for word. Now I'll repeat this other stuff word for word. So, update the system BIOS to the latest version available from motherboard manufacturer. Set the BIOS to use factory default settings / optimize default settings. In the BIOS, locate the power supply idle control option and set it to typical. That's that one other option I was talking about where you can set the power supply to typical. Update Windows to the latest version and build via Windows Update. Update to latest chipset drivers from AMD. In the Windows control panel, select power options and choose the balanced recommended power plan. And Windows settings, select power and sleep and set the performance and energy slider to the middle. Disable non-Microsoft services and startup items using the system configuration tool. Reseat the CPU, RAM, and all power supply connections end to end for modular systems. So basically what that's talking about is, let's say for your graphics card, you unhook all the power connections from the graphics card, and then if it's a modular system like mine, after you plug those back into the graphics card, you go to the power supply and you unhook the cables from the power supply too, and then you reseat them. And then verify the RAM sticks are installed in the correct DIMM slots. Oh, that reminds me. When I did run my test for my memory and I reseated the memory, I did actually try to change them from slots 3 and 4 to slots 1 and 2, and you know what? My motherboard did not like that at all. It threw such a fit. And then as soon as I powered everything back down, put those memory sticks back in the slots 3 and 4, it was happy. That was actually kind of funny. And yeah, I'll put all these as optionals down in the description below as well. So yeah, that's my experience with Critical Error 41 and WHEA Logger Event 18/19. So if anybody else has had any experience with this, and again, it seems like it only affects AMD for some odd reason. Conspiracy. But yeah, again, if you've ever experienced this, for the YouTube section anyways, comment down below exactly what all you experienced. What was your diagnostic route? Like, what did you do to figure it out? If you figured it out, did you try any of the steps in my video? If not, try it out. If so, did it work? Did it work for you, or are you still having or experiencing issues? Um, I am very interested in people's opinions on what happened, and this is my first time doing a video like this for YouTube, but I'm also live streaming it on Twitch. I'm not even at affiliate yet, so if you want to jump over to Twitch and follow me over on Twitch too to help me reach affiliate, that'd be kind of badass. But I go by WarMad2, as in the number 2, WARMAD, the number 2. So WarMad2 over on Twitch. If you'd like to go there and follow me, because I do live stream video games, and I'm starting to get into live streaming some coding as well. I have a Discord. I'll put that in the description below. But yeah, if anybody wants to talk about this, if anybody knows why AMD hasn't solved this yet, or if anybody knows if AMD has tried to solve it, or if they know why this happens, particularly to AMD, I would love to hear everybody's opinions. Whether it's good, whether you want to tell me I suck, it's okay. I know I suck. I'm not used to doing this. But I thank everybody for their time. I know this video was pretty long, and I will try to figure out, at least for YouTube, on how to put the markers in the video so people know exactly where to go for each section. I've never done that before, so bear with me on this one. Um, but right now, live on Twitch, if anybody's hanging out, I appreciate you hanging out. If you're going through this issue, I hope you learned something. Maybe you can use what I went through to get this fixed. And I just hope that, I don't care if AMD sees this video, I just hope that whoever's experiencing this with AMD, because I'm a huge Ryzen fan, I love their Radeon cards. I'm so glad that Ryzen has, like AMD was able to catch up to Intel with their Ryzen processors, and that Intel's like struggling to fight back. I'm actually enjoying it as an AMD fan. However, this strictly, like, this isn't bias or anything. I may be a fan of AMD, go Team Red, but I would also have no problem with going Team Intel either, based off of, hardware and software, etc., etc. But with the Ryzen cards and their Radeon cards, I like it. So it would be interesting to see how all this turns out. Now, I have high-end cards. Like I said, I have the AMD Ryzen 9 5900, the 5950X, and the AMD Radeon 6900 XT Red Devil. I know all these issues happens with their lower end and mid end processors and stuff too. I know there'd be people on the 3500 chips, the 5000 chip. I'm not sure if this affects their APUs. I didn't see anything about these affecting their APUs. Hopefully it does not affect their APUs, because that would kind of suck if someone's like on a laptop or just on some like cheap beginner's computer and they don't know what's going on and it's just constantly restarting and they're like, oh my god, what do I do? And they go to some computer shop and get ripped off for a bunch of repairs when it's something that's could be simply easy to fix. But I hope they do end up figuring this out, and so it never happens again. And if this is a rare occasion, then holy crap. Well, I'm out of here. I want to play some video games. So, pieces.